teach you how to get abs. That's easy, dude. You actually don't even have to exercise to get abs. You just have to know how to diet. Abs are 100% made in the kitchen. So knowing how to diet, what that means is understanding TDEE, total daily energy expenditure. You go use this website right here. You type in what your age, weight, height, activity level, and body fat are, and it'll tell you how many calories you need to be eating per day. And to get abs, you need to get down to a body fat that is 15% or lower. That's when you'll start seeing visible abs. Now, if you're talking about having abs like me, like you see in that video down there on the bottom right, that that video is me during peak summertime with about between 4 and 5% body fat. That's very, very low. And it takes multiple months worth of aggressive dieting plus cardio to get there. But getting to 10 to 15% is totally doable. It's not that hard. I did it my very first year of fitness, and I did it like the first 3 months that I was exercising. I crash dieted. I reduced my calories all the way down to like 1,500 per day. And that stripped off all the fat on my body pretty much immediately. Now, I'm not going to sit here and recommend crash dieting because it's called crash dieting for a reason. It's not healthy long term to do things like that. But, if you're just trying to run the experiment of, I need to know how many calories my body truly needs. So you come in here, you figure out what your maintenance calories is. This will tell you what your maintenance is, meaning if you eat this many, you won't gain or lose weight. And then you eat 20% less than that number. And then you weigh yourself after a week. And if you didn't lose any weight, you adjust that number down by 10%, try again after another week. And that's how you get on the road to figuring out how many calories you need and how to cut. That's what they call that, cutting. How do you measure body fat? There are a few different ways to measure body fat, and they're going to vary in terms of their accuracy. So let's see. I'm not sure how we should start. The most accurate from the least accurate, or the most common to the less common. So the problem is the most accurate ways to measure body fat are the least common ways because people don't have access to them. So the most accurate way to get your body fat measured is to use a BOD or a DEXA scan, which, you can go to Google, type in DEXA scan in the city that you live, and that'll tell you some offices, like physical therapy kind of places who have a DEXA scan machine. And it looks kind of like a giant tanning bed that you lay in, and it scans your entire body, and it figures out your body composition, how much fat, how much water, how much muscle, how much skeletal mass. That's the most accurate way to do it. That's the most trusted way. But obviously that's difficult. So the next most accurate way is a BOD, which is, it's a giant like bowl or egg or giant bathtub filled with water, and it uses what's called water displacement. So they know exactly how much water is in there. You put your body in there, which then causes some of the water to overflow and come out. And they can measure based on how much water came out, what your measurements are. The third most common way is to use what's called an in-body scan, that's actually the name of a brand. The method is, what is it called? Electronic impedance measurement. It's basically a scale. You're familiar with the scale that you step on and it weighs you, but it doesn't just weigh how many pounds you weigh. It has these metal things on the feet where it can read like it sends electronic pulses through your body, and through that it can measure based on that feedback what your body composition is. And so, for example, my gym has one of these machines. A lot of gyms have an in-body scan machine. And so you get in there and it'll tell you. And that's what I use because it's more accurate than the fourth method, which is using calipers, which are, like a little clamp that you pull a piece of your skin and you clamp it down on the fat that you pulled off, and it'll measure how many millimeters that little lip of fat is. And then you look at this chart and it says, okay, if I have my fat lip is 10 millimeters, that means I'm about 13% body fat or something like that. That's the least accurate way, but it's the most common way because all you need is a little $2 item and you can do it pretty quickly. Withings body scan? I'm not sure if I've used the Withings body scan. What kind of method is that? BG, let me read your question here. Is it okay to, instead of doing bulk cut for many years, to do one big bulk for a couple years, gain 40, 50, 60 pounds, and then in a single cut, get down to, say, 12%, and then maintain that for as long as you can? Yeah, absolutely. The funny thing is a lot of people do that unintentionally. Athletes specifically, like you'll see a lot of guys who, for example, play football for their entire 4 years of high school or maybe their 4 years of college. And, sports don't require you to be particularly lean. They just require you to continue to gain muscle mass and continue to get stronger, which requires you to eat in a caloric surplus, which is the definition of bulking. So a lot of athletes will actually be in kind of a perpetual state of bulking for years at a time. Never really intentionally trying to cut and get their body fat as low as possible, because that's not really part of sports. That's assuming that you're not bulking too fast to the point where you have so much weight gain that you're suddenly slower and less effective at your sport. But I will say, here's my opinion on bulking. I don't like to bulk for longer than about 7 or 8 months. And that's really pushing it. How much weight you should be gaining month over month with your bulk, it's going to add up pretty fast. Like, I would say you should only gain about 2 or 3 pounds per month, which may not sound like much. But over the course of a year, let's just say it's only 2 pounds per month. Okay, well, you're looking at gaining 24 pounds in 1 year. And if you're sitting here talking about doing this for a couple years, after 2 years, you've already gained 50 pounds. And the misconception that people have with their first bulk especially is that most of those 50 pounds they gain is muscle. And that is false. That is 100% false. That is never true for anybody. Nobody in history has gained 50 pounds of lean muscle mass in 2 years, especially when you're talking about naturally. And I'm assuming you're talking about doing this naturally. There is an overwhelming amount of empirical evidence that shows you can gain roughly 1, maybe 1.5 pounds of lean muscle mass per month. Yeah, go ahead. Post your link. So if you already know that based on the science, the weight that you're gaining, only 1 pound of that per month is going to be actual muscle. And so if you sit there and bulk for 2 years, gaining 2 pounds a month, you're at 50 pounds over, and at best you gained 24 pounds of muscle at best, assuming you were very genetically lucky, you're going to have to sit there and diet off 25 pounds worth of fat. And truthfully, I can go ahead and tell you now, you're not only going to gain 2 pounds per month. To gain 2 pounds a month means you have very, very good dietary discipline to not overbulk and not overeat. And when you're doing it for the first time, nobody has that level of accuracy. Let's pull this in here. We're going to check out this link. How do you say that? Withings or Withings? Is this moving? This is going nowhere fast. There we go. Oh, okay. Body scan connected. I feel like I've heard this name before. Scales. So this appears to be a home electronic impedance scale, which isn't new. These have been around for a while. I bought one of these at Bed Bath & Beyond like when I first started lifting because I was really like overexcited about tracking my body fat. I was like, I need to know every week what my body fat is. And it actually had an app that you could sync to it, which it sound these are Wi-Fi. Which like this stuff is it's handy, but it's kind of, I mean, shit, for $200, that's a lot of money to pay on a device that I'm not sure is going to really change your results. Like you can get an electronic impedance scale at, like I said, Bed Bath & Beyond for $40 or $50. You don't have to spend this much money. Or, you know, if your gym has the in-body scan, that's definitely the free way to do it. But I mean, it was motivating. Okay, so they have a $100 option. That's pretty good. But does it show body fat? It says body composition, so it should. Yeah, body composition right there. Useful for sure. The problem is if you're constantly checking your body fat, you'll get really neurotic about it. And then when it goes up, especially when you're cutting, you'll have a psychological meltdown because you're like, how is that possible? I ate less calories, and sometimes even your body weight will drop, yet the scale says your body fat percentage somehow went up that week. And you're like, how is that possible? I lost weight, but I gained fat? And that can be a really frustrating experience that makes you doubt both the scale itself and doubt your diet and everything you're doing. So just be careful about not putting too much of an emphasis on I need to check my body fat all the time, because it can turn into a psychological nightmare. I know that was pretty difficult for me for the first few years.